94.3 Radio 1, ladies and gentlemen. This is called Turning a Page, where we try and ignite the love for the written word in your hearts to see if we can seduce you into turning the pages and appreciate the fragrance that wafts out of a new book. And talking of new book, Novoneel, no stranger to new books. This year itself, two. Actually not this year. We're still so caught up in the fact that it's 2022 while it's already become 2023. But two books in 2022: A Thousand Kisses Deep and Heart on the Edge. It seems
Yeah.
that it was a productive year, Novanil.
Yeah, but I don't know. A lot of people have been telling me that it's two books a year and all. But I think I've been delivering two books a year from the last 10 years. So it's just that I think what's the difference this year is that it has come a little too back to back. Like Thousand Kisses Deep came out in the July August, and
Yeah.
this came out in December. So the time was like within 6 months. Otherwise, it usually is 9 to 10 months. So, but technically, that's also two books a year.
For sure, absolutely. So tell us about Heart on the Edge a little, so we can get people excited to
Sure.
go out and grab the book.
So Hard on the Edge is my 18th novel, and it's an out and out thriller. It's the elements of psychological thriller and psychological horror is also into it, and it tells the story of Naishi Kamraj, a very young girl whose brother goes missing suddenly, and what all she needs to do is find out her brother, what happened to her. But in the process, she finds a lot about her own life, which she thought that she knew it well, but a lot of things that she never knew about her life, her parents, her family comes out in the limelight, and how she deals with this shocking revelations. In a nutshell, that's the story.
We're living
Yeah,
in we're living in very strange times, and probably
true.
fantasy and fiction as refuge is something that we can all look forward to. So, is that one of the things that's been animating your writing recently?
Not only writing, I think in life as well, because I always find writing or any kind of creative expression is very therapeutic. And as you rightly said, we just had a glimpse, and I hope it's just a glimpse and nothing more of this deadly variant that everyone is talking about. And coming from this pandemic stage, writing, reading has always been my that escapist mode and route, and I think that's true for a lot of people. So all the more reason to pick up books, fiction, non-fiction, whatever, and just surrender yourself to that immersive journey of reading. I guess all the more reason.
Absolutely. And, we've had to this next question I'm going to ask you, I've had some very interesting perspectives. Usually people say that writing is a very lonely, pursuit. But there are lots of people who say that they bounce ideas off people and that it can become quite a collaborative process depending on how you treat it. What's your process?
So I don't know how it will sound, but I have multiple alter egos. So so what I do is I keep bouncing those all my ideas to my alter egos, and we have a collective discussion. I know it sounds freaky. I sometimes just talk to myself, but I come from that school of thought where I will not bounce my thought with anybody else apart from just a couple of very close people. I don't know. I come from this school of thought which tells me that the sanctity of the idea gets a little diluted when you throw it open to everyone, because invariably doesn't matter how many people you bounce off your ideas or everything, when the final thing comes out, people will anyway have an opinion. They will have an opinion. If 100
Sure.
people read a book, there will be 100 opinions. So how many opinion will you count and take and correct yourself? I think it's better to go visceral, trust your instincts, trust your storytelling skills, and just let it out there and see what it comes. If it's bouquets, great. If it's brickbats, that's also great. I mean, that's an opinion, I guess. So I don't bounce off my ideas much with anybody, and I trust my instincts, and that's how I enjoy it. I think when people say that writing is a lonely process, that's the only loneliness that I enjoy, I guess.
Two books out in 2022, A Thousand Kisses Deep and Heart on the Edge. Not just that, about 15 bestsellers amongst a plethora of This is the one that you need to scroll twice or thrice for finding the whole repertoire of books. And it's not just books, actually. It's also OTT platform scripts and serials. And you seem to be quite irrevocably in love with the words, which leads me to the question of writer's block. What are your views on writer's block, Novoneel?
So, more than in love with the words, I think I love to think, because writing and words are just an expression of your thoughts. So if you don't have a thought, you'll not be able to write. So it's very important. That's where I think writer's block also come in. Writer block doesn't mean that you forget writing. It just means sometimes you're not thinking correct. There's some blockage because of which the flow stops or whatever. And over years, what I've realized is my process of breaking that block, which happens. So I'm little creatively polygamous. So I keep writing 5 stories in my mind all the time. So I just jump from one story to other. Whenever I'm blocked at one, I go to the other, then other, and invariably when I come back to the first, something has clicked. And the second thing that I very deliberately follow is I keep meeting new people when I'm blocked in my work. I think meeting human beings opens up a perspective. Whatever, and it can be a small, minor, unimportant chit chat, but I don't know, magically enough, it just opens doors in my mind and I can get into my story using it. At least it has worked till now. So I think meeting new people and is a great tool to break that block. Because sometimes in our own zone, as we rightly said before, that writing is a lonely job. So too much of me in the writing process can just block you in your own story. So I think it's very important to meet new people.
Also, that's one internal blockage. The other external blockage is that now there's just with the democratization of art, if I may use that highly pretentious
Yeah.
term, everyone's got access to every kind of idea, and you're not just actually competing
Yeah.
with other authors, you're also competing with meme makers, content creators, people who write 3
Everything.
lines. So does
Yes.
that also sort of exert a little bit of pressure on your creative process?
Not really, because I don't really think about that much, because you can't do anything about it. I mean, there are people, so there are people. I mean, just because I can think them out, right? You know what I mean? You have to just focus on your own learnings, and that's why it's all the more important that whatever you are trying to say through your books or whatever, there has to be a certain truth to it. And I strongly believe when you connect to a truth of a thing, it often is very exclusive. So it's very important to get to the truth of the matter, whether it's a story or even a 3 lines that you're trying to, frame your thought or creating a meme or whatever. The truth of the subject is very important. That's where the exclusivity lies. I mean, we have turned 8 billion people on Earth. Obviously, you cannot do much about it. Everybody has a brain and they will think. And obviously, as you said very rightly, everyone has the access and the platforms to do it. There are free platforms on Instagram or whatever. So you can't really think it out, and if you think more, I think the pressure comes. So I try not to think and focus on my own thing, and try to be as original and as exclusive as possible.
But Novoneel, you're living in a world of listicles, yeah, and we've spoken about the democratization of art. There's lots of people who have literally been seduced by the written word and wanted to make it a profession. So, in 3 to 5 points, tell us the things that a new author needs to keep in mind first and foremost.
Some of the things that I always tell young budding authors is that, firstly, never go after fame, because fame is always, doesn't matter what you do, fame is always a byproduct of your work. It cannot be a destination. And if it's a destination, it will be short. If you make it a destination, I feel it will be short-lived. Second is, I think you should read a lot, because obviously you want to write stories. You should read as much as possible, analyze, and not only read but study. Even if you're reading fiction, study it. Understand how the author has framed sentences, tried to translate his or her thoughts on paper. So basically, study and make your own notes. The third would be, I would say, be true to your own voice. I think one of the most important and more difficult thing for any kind of artist is to find his or her own voice. Because in his or her own voice lies the exclusivity. Why XYZ person will read you and not someone else, or read you and someone else. Because if you are writing what 10 people or 100 people are writing, I don't think people are in that mood to shell out that 200 rupees or 250 rupees to buy your book. Because it's like films. You go for those films which you want to watch, and there will be no parallel to it.
For sure.
So these are the basic, and the last point that I would say obviously is just be honest and true to yourself. Don't imitate what the market demands or someone else who has become a hit is doing. Just be yourself, know yourself, and these are easier said than done. Very easy to say, but these are one of the most difficult things for any kind of artist to find your own
Sure.
self and your voice. But I'm sure that if a dedicated approach is pursued, then it happens over time.
Through this conversation, what's clear, of course, is the fact that you clearly enjoy thoroughly what you do between these pages.
Yeah.
But it'd be really interesting to see you encapsulate heartbreak in a sentence or two. I mean, we know that the passion, the joy of seeing your work in print, etc., is something that drives you. But how would you describe the heartbreak of being an author by profession?
I don't know how to how to answer that. Basically, what I have understood, and I hope that becomes an answer to this, is that being an author, it's always our order is pain. If there's no pain, there's no loss, you cannot write much about,
For
because the
sure.
depth comes from there.
For
So,
sure.
in a very contradictory and weirdly contradictory manner, I've realized that when I'm very happy in life, I'm sad because I know I'll not be able to write much. But when I'm sad, I feel a corner of mine feels a little happy that, oh, right now I'm shelving tears, or I'm injured, I'm damaged, or whatever. But I know 2 days down the line, I'll come back to this only to write my next or whatever. So it's a very kind of contradictory life that artists live, because we need to have our pain right by our side. We cannot let it go. So the words like move on, they don't exist for us. They cannot exist for us.
For sure.
We cannot move on. We have to make our homes around the pain that we live in. Because that will drive us to create what we want to create, if not immediately, at least in the near future. Because it's always the wounds that you go back to get anything meaningful or in depth writing. So I don't know whether it answers the question, but the heartbreak of it is this only, that you cannot be absolute happy ever, because of what I just said.
That's just beautifully put, actually. I mean, that answers very eloquently the question that I had asked, and
I
not
hope
just
so.
that,
Yeah.
it also gives us the perspective on emotion and how we deal with it. I mean, there's literally no 100% emotion, right? There's always a tinge of everything else, and for an author
Yes.
to have that magnified is something that budding authors would definitely want to keep in mind. Novoneel, this has been absolutely wonderful. Such wonderful insights and such wonderful joy in the process of writing. We'd like to thank you very much for your time and for your output. It gives us things to read and get lost in another world in, which is something that we could all do with a little more
Thank
of. So
you.
thank you.
Right. Thank you so much, Sarthak, and thanks to Radio One. It was amazing, a privilege to be here with you. Thank you. All the best. I'm sure the show and all the shows will rock. Anyways, they are rocking.
Thank you. The show is called Turning a Page. In case you have anything to say, Sarthak from Radio is my Instagram ID. Novoneel is Novoneel Chakraborty. So search for him. If you've got anything to say, please feel free. More importantly, read the books. The latest one is called Heart on the Edge. Novoneel, thank you very much. Have a great day.
94.3 Radio 1.